Hello, and welcome to another edition of Beaver Finance. I'm your host, Robert T. Anderson. If you're new here, welcome to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to stay connected, please consider subscribing at the link below. Budgeting 101, how to budget. In this video, we will talk about the top 5 practical tips and ways you can start budgeting today. So this will be beginner's tips on how to best budget and manage your money. So you won't want to miss this one. So top 5 ways to budget. Tip number 1, look through your past 3 months of bank and credit card statements. This is important on really starting from scratch when it comes to budgeting. You don't necessarily want to make some assumptions on, I typically spend maybe $400 a month on groceries or $100 a month on clothing. Those are good potential targets to try to manage a category of spending. But you do want to get a true average on what you do spend. And simply the only way to do this is by actually looking at the real numbers. So you'll want to get together all those statements, or at least open up in your web browser, ideally, each tab, so that you've got all that account information right at your fingertips. This way you can start to analyze it. And then if you have access to either Excel or I like to use Google Sheets in my Google Drive, you can start to then secondly take that information and start to compile it into a budget. Now you'll want to set various categories in terms of looking at obviously your housing expenses, vehicle, any savings or insurance costs, groceries, things like clothing, as I mentioned, gifts, costs relating to children, vacation spending, restaurants, entertainment, hobbies, and other category as well, and start to compile all that data. And once you put it all together, you can then also compare that to your income line. So this, if you're an individual by yourself, you can put your own income. I would use your net income. So after all taxes and expenses are factored in and deductions. Or if you're a family with 2 incomes or more, you could potentially put both your net incomes in there, and then take your net income, deduct those expenses, and then see if you have a surplus or hopefully not a deficit. If you have a deficit, perhaps you need to stop there and go back and look at ways to trim some of that spending to quickly get ahead of the situation and not put any more financial distress in your specific situation. So Excel or Google Sheets would be a good tool for that. Then after you've listed all your income and expenses, you can also break it into 2 categories. So this will be your fixed expenses and your variable expenses. Now your fixed expenses, were those things I mentioned, housing, typically most vehicle expenses like your payments and or insurance, regular savings you might make, other insurance payments, phone, internet, all those expenses are typically fixed. And then you'll have a variable category. So those would be everything from groceries to clothing to child costs, vacation, restaurants, hobbies, entertainment, other. That's typically where the rest of your money goes usually. So breaking them into those 2 categories helps to show you what you're going to spend on a monthly basis, no matter what happens, and what expenses you typically have that are variable. So perhaps, there might be some negotiating room left, with those fixed expenses, but typically those are fixed and won't change for the most part, unless, like I said, you can find some potential savings. Second, you'll probably find more savings in your variable expenses, because if you're spending $600, $800, or $1,000 a month on groceries, but you're spending like $800 or $1,000 on restaurants, you can probably trim back the restaurant spending if you need extra cash flow to start things like saving or putting towards debt repayment, as an example. And you may be able to do that with multiple categories once you've broken it down. So after you've checked to see, if you've had a surplus or a deficit, with this exercise, you can then start to figure out, based on your financial goals, where that money should go. So do you have an emergency fund? Do you have debt that should be starting to be paid down at a greater pace? Should you start investing, or should you double down on investing? Those are all considerations on what to do with that extra money to put you in a better financial situation. So, as I mentioned, lastly, then you can also analyze those categories of spending to really see if you can spend less. I won't talk too much more about that, but that is an important area where we can all cut back on something that maybe isn't a priority. You can think about it as needs and wants. Definitely the needs are necessary for day-to-day living, or just, maybe it's a priority to you and important, or a treat. And then wants, are things that we want, we desire, we dream about, we're marketed to as consumers, and wired to, want, temptation, essentially. That's okay in moderation. But getting an idea of what your expenses are versus needs and wants, that'll essentially be, important from a bonus tip standpoint. We want to make sure that, we really understand what's driving the expense, and understanding the motivation behind it will help keep you on track for your other goals. Once you've made some of those behavioral changes, to change your spending and to work on saving and investing and paying yourself first before unnecessary spending. So that also covers our bonus tip, of course, on needs and wants. Hopefully you got some value from this video. If you haven't already, please like this video. It means a lot to us. Also subscribe. We've got a lot of great content coming out. So hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. Be part of our community. We have a lot of great content coming out. Various videos, that we've noticed need to get out there and will benefit you. As well, if you have any ideas, you can also drop us a line in the comments below. So, question of the day. Let us know if you have started a budget, or if you've used any of these budgeting tips yet. And if you have started a budget, let us know how it's going. So leave a comment below. Or if you've got another tip for budgeting on what maybe has worked for you, we'd also love to hear that in the comments below. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll catch you in the next episode.